Okay, so Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man just finished its first season, and everyone is talking about how it's the best Spider-Man show since The Spectacular Spider-Man. And, like, they're not wrong, but also, that's not the highest bar. Like, yeah, these are fine, I guess. I don't have too much bad to say about them, but I don't have too much good to say about them either. That being said, it's still nice to have a really good Spider-Man show to watch, but nothing is perfect. I do have some complaints, and I kind of feel like I don't utilize this platform right. And by right, I mean being a little crybaby bitch complaining about something that everyone else loves, so that's what I'm gonna do. I haven't been watching anyone else's videos on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man because I don't want their opinions to affect me, and I'm also kind of just weird, and I think, like, I'm not allowed to express my opinion on something if someone else on the internet has that same opinion and they shared it first. Like, I'm completely aware that I can have a thought completely independently and then someone else could have the exact same thought completely independently, but for some reason in my head, if someone else says it first, I'm like, well, then I have no reason to say it because they said it first and I don't want to just copy them. But this way, if I don't watch anyone else's videos, I'll never know. Also, just based on like the thumbnails of all the videos and how people were talking about it when the first few episodes came out, it seems like everyone's already talking about everything that the show did right. The story is great and has some of my favorite adaptations of Spider-Man characters that I've seen in a while. Looking at you, Lonnie. This was your show and you know it. But because I think those positives are also obvious, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the negatives, at least for me. The one I want to get out of the way real quick is that I hated looking at this. I did not enjoy the animation. I thought it looked stiff and lifeless, which sucks because I actually really like the art design and loved the like comic book borders and like panels, but just like the actual animation of it, it didn't work for me. And I know that's just a me thing. It clearly wasn't enough to stop me from watching the show, but like it almost kind of did. Like I think the city also felt kind of lifeless. Like it was always kind of weird where there would be like three people just kind of standing there motionless with blank faces, not doing anything. But it really hit me in the penultimate episode where the gangs are fighting in the middle of the street in broad daylight, and it's conveniently 20 gang members, Nico and Spider-Man, and that's it. No one else is on the street in New York, and I don't know how I feel about that. It feels a little awkward to me. I just wish there was something giving the city a little more life. I don't think you could do it for the whole show, but I think this last kind of scene, his last swinging through the city, something about the coloring there, something about the way it looked, that felt more alive to me than anything else in the show where he's kind of just swinging and nothing else is happening. And I don't know, that all just felt weird to me. Something else I thought was weird was how close this felt to the MCU. I know this was supposed to be the MCU Spider-Man's origin, and that got changed along the way, and I'm happy about that because this got to feel more like its own thing, but it still has enough similarities to the MCU that feel like it's keeping the show in a bit of a box, if that makes any sense. Like, you can like this show, but you should also like MCU Spider-Man in equal amount, and don't think about other Spider-Man things. When you see this, you should still think MCU Spider-Man. At least that's how I read it. Like, that's how I feel like Marvel is doing this. Like, when it basically recreates Peter meeting his new billionaire mentor who will be providing him with all his suits and stuff like that. Things like the Sokovia Accords being called out. May looking very similar to Marissa Tomei. The voice actor for Spider-Man sounds more like Tom Holland than not Tom Holland. Getting Charlie Cox to voice Daredevil in this weeks before he is in the new Daredevil show that is officially in the MCU. They even got Zach Cherry back, who famously asked Spider-Man to do a flip and then film Shang-Chi on a bus. And he's in Severance, but like that's not related to the MCU. I just like Severance and I want to talk about Severance. Go watch Severance, it's great. All of this is enough to keep it familiar to the MCU, but it's not the MCU, and that's what makes it feel a little weird to me. Also, not a real complaint about the show, but at the beginning of the episodes when it's showing the like Marvel animation panels, where's X-Men 97? Sure, I saw you put the original X-Men animated series, but you showed What If twice. Why aren't we showing love to X-Men 97? Why don't we talk more about X-Men 97? It was a good show. Sorry, let's get back to Spider-Man. As for the actual substance of the show, when it comes to things like the plot, a lot of it is really good. I kind of think that the weakest part of the show is Spider-Man. Okay, just hear me out. To start off, I don't know how I feel about Peter essentially being the one to make Spider-Man, right? Because it's Peter's blood used to make the spider that went back in time and bit Peter, which made him Spider-Man, and then the events of him being Spider-Man lead to his blood being put in the spider, and the spider goes back in time. You get it, right? That that feels weird and kind of unnecessary to me. But I guess it doesn't take anything away from Spider-Man. It just doesn't feel like it's adding anything either. My other big thing is Ben being dead prior to Peter getting his powers. Uncle Ben dying because Peter didn't do anything when he had his powers is Peter's motivation for using his powers for good. That's the story we all know and love and are sick of seeing, but that's not how this plays out. So we don't really have the best understanding of why this Peter is Spider-Man. I guess we could say that he learned enough from Ben and May over the course of his time with them, and he just naturally ended up wanting to be a hero, but I don't like that. I don't like inferring that. I don't like assuming that. But it wasn't enough of a problem for me to have brought up until Norman does the whole "with great power comes great respect." Norman tells Peter to stop holding back. Now, this felt like it was setting up something really cool. What if Peter didn't have a pure of heart mentor? What if Peter's mentor pushed him to, let's say, cross a line that can't be uncrossed? What if Peter's mentor taught Peter not to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? That would have been cool, but obviously that's not really Spider-Man anymore, right? So, of course, Peter is gonna have problems and struggle with what Norman is doing, but now I ask, why? Why doesn't Peter just give in? Why doesn't he stop holding back all the time? Why isn't he more selfish with his power? We don't actually know. Yes, we could infer and assume, but we don't actually know. And that's not great when these two ideologies are being pitted against each other. Like, I guess I don't really know why Peter doesn't just start murking people. I mean, he tried to, right? And then the greatest character in the entire show, Lonnie Lincoln, stopped him. But why does Peter back down so easily after that? What sense of responsibility does this Peter have? Maybe it'll have something to do with his dad who's in prison, but at the moment, we just don't actually know. Also, what a horrible first outing for the Red and Blue. Like, this fight where Peter almost lets Norman's words lead him to kill a man should have happened while Peter was in the Oscorp suit. The bright blue and red should have been more representative of, like, him being this icon that, like, everyone can look to and be like, yes, that is a hero. That is someone I love and respect and want to save me. And so it's weird that the first time he wears it, he basically does the least Spider-Man thing and almost kill a man. Like, he was willing to kill a man until best character in the entire show, Lonnie Lincoln, stopped him. It should take a lot for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to cross that line, and yet this one almost did it so quickly. Like, I love the concept of all of this. I just didn't love the execution. But aside from those things, yeah, I liked your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I thought it was fun. Also, fuck, conspiracy time, okay? I vividly remember Spectacular Spider-Man coming to Disney Plus and me watching it on Disney Plus, right? Whenever that happened, it had to have been a few years ago at this point, at least 2. But then I went back to rewatch it a few months ago and it was gone. And I was like, what happened? So I went to the internet and the internet said it had been off Disney Plus since like December of 2023. Like, that's when the Reddit post that I saw was posting about it. So, like, what's up with that? I think it's because Disney didn't want anyone watching Spectacular Spider-Man and having it fresh enough in their minds when they watched Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, so that way when it came out, people wouldn't compare them as much. Because the other Spider-Man shows are all still there, and I bet those are easier for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man to beat. But Disney knew nothing could ever touch the greatest piece of Spider-Man media to ever exist, so they did everything in their power to stop you from comparing them by taking Spectacular Spider-Man off their streaming service so you didn't think about it. You couldn't go back and watch it. You had nothing like that to do unless you went and found it, and Disney knows we're all lazy and we're not going to do that. What am I going to do? Buy it? What am I gonna do? Find a site that's streaming it somewhere else? That's a lot of work. Except it's not. Hypothetically, I found one very quickly. But again, hypothetically, no one's saying that I did or didn't. But we're all too lazy to do that when we could just throw up Disney Plus and rewatch Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man instead, or any of the other Spider-Man shows, and be like, man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, so much better than these other ones. And that's what I think they did. I think they did exactly that. Or maybe it was just something with licensing or something. I don't know how any of that works. It's weird and I don't care. Okay, thanks. See ya.